We are so glad you're able to join us today for our presentation about financing education. With me, I have my staff of the Financial Aid Office. We have Susan Erb, the Associate Director, Yvette Rude, the Financial Aid Counselor, who will be doing the majority of the presentation. And then we also have Tim Roberts. In the background, we also have some help from admission staff, Peyton Mills, Bill Brown, and Biz Gomer to help us be able to maneuver through everything. For right now, I'm going to turn it over to Yvette for some housekeeping information.
Well, welcome everyone to today's presentation. We're very happy that you've chosen to join us. We will be doing our presentation and then be happy to answer questions after the presentation. You may do so by clicking on the bottom of your screen and putting your question in the chat session. If you have a family specific question, we will also be opening up some breakout rooms where we have two specialists, both Ms. Erb and Ms. Verite, in those rooms to answer your specific family questions. Some other housekeeping details, we would appreciate it very much if you would put your full name on the screen so that we can be sure to have your name in the drawing for the Amazon gift card for today's presentation. So if you have not already done so, please change your name to your full name. We have muted everyone's microphone again, so if you have questions, please use the chat bubble. We will answer those questions at the end. During the presentation, we are requesting that everybody keep your camera off. However, if you'd like to ask a question at the end, we can give you permission to do so. Hood College is also offering some additional Zoom sessions regarding an intermediate level of a financial aid presentation where we'll specifically go in more detail about student loans, both federal and private loans, as well as specific things about scholarships. We're also having a FAFSA completion night, and that's going to be on November 2nd. That information and the link to those will be posted after the session is over. We are going to be recording the session, and the Office of Admission can make that available to you after this is over. We just wanted to let you know that so that you are not caught unaware. So at this time, we will start the presentation. So financing your college education, whether it is your first student going to college or you yourself, or you just want to brush up on maybe different things that you were not fully aware of or want to make yourself more aware of, then we are going to try to answer as many questions and do as much as we can to help you understand and feel comfortable with the financial aid process in general. So the first thing we always start with is it's always about the FAFSA. And of course, FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Now, if you are considering wanting federal student aid, then this application must be completed. And this opens the door to several federal options, such as loans, any federal grants, and federal work study as well. The first step is to obtain your FSA ID. Now, each student needs to have their own FSA ID, as well as at least one parent in the household needs to have one. The reason for this is that is going to be your electronic signature to sign the FAFSA at the end. During the process to set this up, there is a two-step authentication process, so be sure to have your cell phone next to your computer while you're doing this to make it easier and quicker for you. The next step is filling out the FAFSA itself. Now, I will tell you that there is an app. We did find out that the FAFSA on the app won't be available until the beginning of December. But you can start on the web. And the great thing about using those both tools is you can start it on the app on your phone and finish it on the web if you need to, or you can just do it all in one location. Make sure though, when you are completing the FAFSA, that you answer all the questions. Wherever there is a number figure required, if you have nothing to put in that field, please put in a 0. Of course, the FAFSA opened October 1st, so you could start today filling out the FAFSA for your student. On the screen, we've listed the information and the tax years that are going to be utilized for the individual year FAFSA. We strongly encourage families to use the DRT or the data retrieval tool. What this does is this links the FAFSA information with the IRS to import the tax information and only the parts that are required for the FAFSA. One of the things that this can help with is then you don't have to find your taxes and go through them and figure out which line items you need to pull from your taxes to put in. It'll automatically do that for you. I also want you to know that if you're using the DRT, you will not be able to see what those numbers are in the application process. However, you will be able to see that when the results are returned back to your student. Frequent FAFSA errors. Now you can see there's quite a list here, and there's more than are on this list. But some key ones that I want to point out to you is the Social Security numbers. Please make sure that your Social Security number matches the name that is on your Social Security card. If this happens to not match when they do the database check, that may get rejected. And then the financial aid office has to clear that up. Some other things are both a household number size and the number of students or members in the family in college. So you want to pay special attention. The great thing is both in the app and on the web, for each question, there may be a little circle with a question mark in it. If you're unsure how to answer the question, please click on that. It'll give you some additional information that you can use to help answer those questions so that your FAFSA can be more accurate. 2 additional steps is, of course, step 3, you're going to receive back that FAFSA information and it's going to go directly to the student. This used to be called the Student Aid Report or the SAR. It is now usually just called the results of the FAFSA. In the upper right-hand corner, you will see the expected family contribution or EFC. This is the same number that's going to be used by all colleges to determine financial aid for your student. The EFC is also an indexed, and that's what the federal government uses to determine federal grants and aid. Please keep in mind, this is not always an accurate picture of what the family can afford, but it is the federal formula. Number 4 is make corrections if needed. So if by accident, when you were completing the FAFSA, you put maybe some parent information under the student part, please be sure to correct that and resubmit. Another thing to note is that your student can put up to 10 colleges on their FAFSA. However, if they have additional colleges, more than 10 that they would like to apply to, then once they receive the results, they can take a few colleges off and add the additional colleges that they want to get their information and resubmit. I spoke a little bit ago about the mobile app. Here is some screenshots of what it's going to look like. You can complete the full FAFSA right on this app. The student can download it. The great thing is too, is one of the things that they're working on is having additional options on this app. For example, your student will be able to track their student loans and be able to see how much that they have accepted in those student loans over their lifetime. They'll also be able to see additional information as it becomes available and as they make the app more secure and beneficial for students and families. There are a bunch of financial aid terms to know, and this list is by no means encompassing of everything, but we're going to touch on some specific things that can help you through this process. So the expected family contribution, again, stays the same regardless of college. There are 2 components of this. One is the parent and the other is the student. The calculation is using data from the federal formula, and that is predetermined and preset by the federal government Department of Education. So what is the college going to cost? Now, as you know, each college is different. Each formula that a college uses to determine certain aid is also different. But here's some key things that you do need to know that you can help and ask your either admission office or the Office of Financial Aid to find out what these items are. In a budget and in the cost of attendance, there are 5 categories. The first 2, tuition and fees, and room and meal plan, are considered direct cost. Now, room and meal plan will only be a direct cost if your student is planning on living in a dorm provided by the college. These 2 categories are the most frequently used direct cost. Some colleges do add in books and supplies as a part of that, but there are only a few of those. So be sure you know what you're looking at, and please ask those questions. The financial aid office is very happy to break that out for you and tell you what it is. Some other things within the budget or the cost of attendance, again, are the books and supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. Now, the reason we have the 2 categories of direct and indirect costs are what you will see on your student's bill and what they're being charged for attending college at a given location. Indirect costs are charges that you will not see on a bill, but the government knows that they play a part in having your student attend college. So financial aid can be used to help cover some of those expenses, depending on the college. The total of all of these categories equals your cost of attendance. Cost of attendance less the EFC is what determines need. Award packaging. All award funds from a college, including your federal and state outside scholarships sometimes, and other institutional aid, are all considered a part of the award package. This can vary student to student. Satisfactory academic progress is something that your student will not have to be as concerned about their first year, but definitely in future years. There's 2 parts. The first one is what's called PACE, or passing rate. And that just means the number of credits attempted compared with the number of credits passed. And of course, the other one is GPA. Your student does need to make themselves aware of what these are so that they can make sure they're meeting those for whatever college they choose. Independent versus dependent students. Please keep in mind the list that's on your screen and the criteria that the question says. Dependent students are students who cannot answer yes to at least one of those statements. So unfortunately, if your student is living at home with you and is less than 24 years old, they're more than likely a dependent student. If you have specific questions about that, by all means, please ask the financial aid office at the institution that your student wants to attend. Now, verification is something else. You will notice if you have been selected for verification on the results of the FAFSA. So right next to the EFC in the upper right-hand corner, if there is an asterisk, the body of the letter will talk to you about what verification is. Now, this does not mean that you've done anything wrong on the FAFSA. The federal government selects approximately 1/3 of all FAFSA filers for verification. Then the school takes the responsibility of completing that. They will ask you to submit additional documents so that we can compare the information from those documents to what has been submitted on the FAFSA. If you use the DRT, this is where that can be extremely helpful, both to you and the school. The documents can vary slightly from school to school, so be sure you're checking with the institution's financial aid office on what documents they may need. They will be sure to tell you very specifically which ones are required for their institution. The CSS profile. Now here at Hood, we do not require that. And keep in mind that the CSS profile is a form that you must pay for. So it is strongly encouraged to not complete it unless a college your student is applying for requires it. The first school that you put on there, it's $25 and then $16 for each additional school. This is a much more detailed form that can be filled out, and colleges can elect to use it or not. So make sure you ask the Office of Admission or the Financial Aid Office if they require this form. And this is used specifically for institutional funds and not federal or state funds. So the type of government aid. Who is eligible for federal student aid? Well, you can see the list there tells you very specifically everybody who could qualify for federal student aid. The Pell Grant is the one that most frequently is associated with federal aid. For the academic year of 2021, the maximum grant was $6,395. We will find out early next spring what that maximum is going to be for the 21-22 academic year. Another grant is FSEOG, and this must go to students who qualify for Pell Grant. Beyond that, you have student loans, and there are two types that your student could qualify for. The first one is a subsidized loan. And what that means is that the federal government subsidizes the interest while your student is in school. The unsubsidized loan means that the student and or family are responsible for the interest while the student is in school. Please keep in mind that your student can defer any and all payments on student loans as long as they are enrolled in an accredited college for at least half time. An additional loan is the Parent Plus loan, and this must be completed by a parent and used for a specific student. Another federal aid is federal work study, and this varies slightly depending on which school your student is going to. In general, most colleges pay a student for work hours that are completed in a normal work cycle. So it's kind of like having our first job. They would go to work, they put in the hours, and then they would receive a paycheck for the hours worked. State of Maryland programs. Now there are many more than what's listed here on your screen, so we encourage you to check those out at the MHEC state.maryland.us, the link that's listed there. It's also strongly encouraged that your student set up an MD-CAPS account. This is the way that the state is going to communicate with your student about any state aid from the state of Maryland that they may qualify for. Now the state has a very strict deadline of March 1st. The FAFSA must be completed and submitted and processed prior to March 1 to be included. We always tell all the families we work with, put at least one Maryland school on there, because even if your student isn't considering a Maryland school, if they change their mind, then they already have that information to the state. State senator and delegate scholarships are awarded specifically by those officers of the state. They each have their own application, so you'll need to reach out to them to see what they need to provide. The best time to start reaching out to your state senator and your state delegate is in March and April. Two other ones that are most commonly awarded is the Guaranteed Access Grant and the Educational Assistance Grant. For the past number of years, the Educational Assistance Grant has been awarded to students in the amount of $3,000. The Guaranteed Access Grant is a much larger grant that can be awarded to a student. And at this time, the student must have a 0 EFC. Now, the very detailed specifics, that is up to the state, and they're the ones who determine who is selected for these. So making sure that you've completed your FAFSA on time is the only application that's needed to be selected for the award. Beyond that, the state may ask for additional documents to be submitted to them for their own verification process. Additional aid, there's many resources that your student can reach out to. Merit aid is awarded by the institutions and is specific to the institution your student is applying to. These most often are awarded by the admission office, and then that information is given to the financial aid office. The Office of Financial Aid usually awards need-based aid. So they will look at both the information that is provided to them from the admission office, as well as information from the FAFSA to determine what need-based aid they can offer you. There may also be additional institutional aids that can be offered to the student. Some colleges require an additional application for those, and some do not. So be sure to ask that question. VA benefits. Now, most colleges do have a specific person on campus called a certifying official who can help you tap into VA benefits if your student is eligible to receive them. There are specific things that need to be submitted to that certifying official so that they can work on helping you get those funds to the college. The state also has additional veteran scholarships that you may be eligible for as well. Other funding options can, of course, be scholarships from outside organizations, such as civic scholarships. We encourage students to be sure to use a trusted scholarship search engine, as well as have your parents check with employer assistance. Sometimes their company has scholarships that they can give to their employees' children. Private loans are an option for you. Mortgage refinance or payout in retirement accounts. Sometimes families have elected to use those as well. Self-help aid. So other loans are considered self-help. Those are private loans through a private lender. Some examples of that are Sallie Mae, Discover, Wells Fargo, and many others. Most colleges will work with any lender you choose. The application process, though, is handled completely by that individual lending institution. The college just certifies it once it is received. Keep in mind, lenders make their own criteria, so the college may not know what individual criteria they have or what the interest rate is or how they arrived at that for you. So be sure you're looking at all options. Planning ahead. Please keep in mind you need to account for every year. Most students finish their college career in 4 years. So be sure you're budgeting your finances and the money to cover the education over the 4 years. It's a good idea to begin saving anytime because every little bit helps. Definitely make a budget for what the family can afford and review each college's cost of attendance to see how that fits in to your budget. Be sure to be creative because there's so many other options out there and opportunities that can be helpful to you. And we want every student to be able to do the best they can at helping themselves get as much money possible to cover their bill. Now, here is a short list of outside scholarship and grant opportunities that your student may choose to elect to go with. There are a few things that I would like to point out. One of the best ones, if you are a resident of Frederick County, is the CFF Redco website. That is the community foundation for Frederick County. So if you are a resident in Frederick County we encourage you to go to that website, and I believe it opens in March, and start completing that application. It is a little bit lengthy, but the great thing that they offer is that you fill out one application and they have links to many different scholarships that you could be eligible for. So it's one application that gets compared with several lending or scholarship options versus having to fill out several different applications, one for each potential scholarship. Another one that does something very similar is centralscholarship.org. That is for students in the state of Maryland. I would definitely check them out. They do have a scholarship window just like the Community Foundation of Frederick. They also have some 0% interest loans that students may qualify for. If you are not a resident of Frederick County, but you do live in the state of Maryland, please be sure to check out your Community Foundation's website. They may have their own application that you can complete there. Some additional helpful websites, and these are key. Of course, studentaid.gov is where you can find out all the information about federal aid. Now, I'll give you a little hint. That website is very wordy. So take it in small chunks because that'll help you be able to absorb it better. FSAID.ed.gov is where you can get your FSA ID. Of course, MHEC for the state of Maryland. And the other ones listed there because those can all be extremely helpful to you. And at this time, the presentation is ended. So be sure if you would like to put your information in the chat box, do so. Also, the financial aid office here at Hood would be happy to answer any questions you have if beyond today's presentation. So if you think of a question later this week or even next week, and you're like, I really should call and find out about that, please feel free to email us or give us a call and we'll be happy to provide you that information. We will also have the slides from today's presentation at the website listed there. And at this time, we'll be happy to take any questions you have.
All right, so Michael Walter Dillon wanted to know, if I am out of state, may I apply for my state financial aid and use it at Hood?
That is a wonderful question, Michael. And I will tell you that most states do not let their funds go outside of their state borders. There are very few that do. So be sure to ask your state. They'll probably have that information on the website. Also, your counselor from high school might be able to know that information as well. I will also let you know that we have now opened up the 2 chat rooms. So if you have a question specific to your family, please put it in the chat box. You can send that privately to Miss Peyton Mills, and she'll be happy to get you connected with one of our financial aid people so that they can answer your specific question. Are there any other questions that anybody may have?
So we have a question from Shalay James. What should I do if my FAFSA or SAR says the Social Security Administration did not confirm that you are a citizen?
That is a great question. So one of the things that you need to know is that you're going to need to provide that information to the individual colleges. So there are specific forms. One of the ones, and the key one, is a copy of your signed Social Security card. If that information matches up, they may ask you for a copy of your birth certificate or the copy of your naturalization papers or green card to prove that you're eligible for federal aid. So it is not a problem. We work with this all the time, and we're happy to help you. And that is a wonderful follow-up question. Yes, you should send those documents First, I would call the college financial aid office to see what documents that individual institution would like. Some colleges, as of today, are not able to view your FAFSA information just yet, but should be shortly. So I would first ask that, have you been able to view my student aid report or my FAFSA information? If they have, then feel free to ask them, okay, what document do I need to submit? Because my FAFSA said that I was not they couldn't compare the name and the social security number. They'll be happy to work with you on that. So don't hesitate and go ahead.
And Michael also wanted to know, will applying early action increase my chances of getting merit aid? Or even though I have good grades in an SAT already completed, shall I wait until my first semester grades are ready to be submitted to, maybe as regular decision?
So those are all wonderful questions, and I'm so glad that you're asking those because each school is different. Now, Hood College does not have early action, but what I would do is I would reach out to your admission office. Sometimes they reserve funds for early action, and sometimes they don't. Now, your admission counselor at that individual school should be able to answer that for you. Please keep in mind that if you decide not to do early action, that's absolutely fine. You can go regular decision. I will tell you, most schools look at students equally. So ask those wonderful questions to the individual schools because they'll be able to tell you that specific. But you are on the right track, even asking those questions. So kudos to you for thinking of that. Any other questions out there?
Lisa Kokal says, how soon is too soon to begin the college search?
I'm going to say it's never too early to begin your college search. And the reason why is I have worked with many students, some close family friends, and I have worked with students who wait until the summer before they're supposed to enter college. And that is a high pressure time. And there's so much to do that summer right before you start college. So that's usually pushing it. I really encourage families, start looking, even start as early as your freshman year in high school. And the reason being, that way you can take a thorough approach and research colleges as much as you want. You can also visit colleges then multiple times, both when students are there or when they're not. At this time, so many colleges are not having students on campus, so you're getting a virtual look. So making sure that you have time to review those colleges, go in person if you can, check things out, talk to students, look at every aspect of the college to see where you think you can find home. That is a wonderful place to feel when you're going to college. It really helps you, I would say, stay at that college and really know, you know what, I know this is the right place for me. That way you also don't feel rushed. It also helps with scholarships because that way you can really make a plan for those scholarships. You can look ahead and see approximately how much the college is going to cost. So the earlier you start, the earlier you can look at all aspects and all details of the college.
And Rachel Canzanieri wanted to know, are transfer students still eligible for scholarships if they are looking to enroll in spring 2021?
Absolutely, Rachel. There are some great scholarships both here at Hood as well as other colleges. So it's great to start looking now. I know if you're looking to transfer in, A lot of colleges reserve funds for specific transfer students. So be sure you're asking those questions. And the admission office people are wonderful and they're happy to answer those questions for you. So don't hesitate. Don't think just because you're transferring mid-year that there won't be funds there for you. There will be. So reach out to both the financial aid office and the admission offices, and they'll be happy to answer that. What other questions can we answer for everyone?
I'd like to just jump in here for a moment. I want to thank everybody for coming today and learning about the financial aid process. Nothing can be more important than talking to the experts about that. My name is Bill Brown. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment Management. And I have been listening in, but letting the experts talk to you about that. I have to tell you folks, going through a college search process in the midst of a pandemic can't be any more different than anything that would have approached normal in the past. All the more important for you to establish a communication with someone in the financial aid office as well as somebody in the admissions office. Every college is going to be different in that regard, and their ability to cope with the pandemic is also going to be different. So, you know, some questions about beginning the college search. Yvette is absolutely correct. It can't be too soon. But one of the things you do want to ask about is, can I visit the campus? Or does the college accommodate visitors right now? Not every college is. And so that's obviously is really important to you. You want to feel what the place is like, see what the place is like, and then talk to them about how are they treating their students? What is the education program like for students? Are they in class? Are they all online? What is their interaction with professors? All those things, really important, different kind of questions than you would have asked had we not had this opportunity of dealing with COVID-19. I know we could have all done without it, but we have it. And so find a college and talk with the college and find out how they are dealing with it and how they will interact and accommodate you. So much credit to you for going through this process during this time. This is a challenge. It's been a challenge for all of us, but please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you on a very individual basis. Back to your questions.
Hi, Michael. I know that we have a number of people from the admission office are looking and reviewing the chat session as well. I'm sure one of them will be happy to reach out to you and let you know who your admission counselor is. And that way you can specifically talk to them and have a name that you can reach back to frequently should you need that.
Lisa Kokal also wanted to know, are colleges still taking the SAT scores as a vital part of the college application? She has heard that colleges were getting away from this.
You know, it really does vary college by college. Here at Hood, we are test optional. So looking at that, again, that's a great thing to ask your admission counselor. Some colleges have it on their website, and maybe Mr. Brown has something you'd like to add about that.
Yeah, Lisa, you did hear correctly. Many colleges are getting away from the standardized test scores, SAT and ACT, particularly this year for students that have had a great deal of difficulty registering for the test, actually sitting for the exam since all the cancellations. So a very significant number of students have gone, or excuse me, colleges have gone to test optional. If not permanently, at least for the class that's scheduled to graduate in 2021. So check with the individual colleges about their testing protocols and whether they're requiring it or not. You're going to find a lot of them that are going to say it's optional, at least for admission. Some are going to continue to use it for scholarships, though. So important questions to ask each individual college because they will all be different. But lots of changes are out there.
The other thing is too, some scholarships, not as many, but some scholarships may require that information. So review individual scholarship requirements, what they need and what they're going to be looking for. They'll also be able to let you know if they're going optional with that or using some other matrix for help determining scholarship eligibility. And thank you, Biz, for putting that information in the chat for both counselors as well as the admission office email and the phone number, so that should you need that information, you certainly have it for Hood College. Again, this is not just about Hood here. While it is all the Hood staff that is participating, certainly each college will have its own, so reach out to the other colleges you may be applying to.
Shelley James wanted to know, does a financial aid package include merit scholarships, and around what time will it be sent?
That is a great question. Financial aid packages do include merit scholarship. So what that usually means is that the financial aid office will not put an award package together for you till after you've been accepted to that institution. Now, depending on the institution will determine on when they're going to send that information out to individual students. Some do it early and some do it later. You can definitely reach out to the individual financial aid office to see when that is expected to happen for that individual school. As I said earlier, some financial aid offices at this time can't even view your financial aid information, so cannot offer you a full package. Some institutions send you your merit scholarship information separately, but it is also included in the award package. Some of our colleagues in the industry will be not even sending out financial aid award packages until February and March. So it really determines on the institution. Here at Hood, we are working to have them out sooner rather than later. We do not have a specific date at this time.
And just as a reminder to all of our attendees, if you have a more personal, private, or financial question that can't go really in the public chat, just message Peyton Mills to assist you in getting to a breakout room where one of our counselors will be able to answer just more of those private, personal, or family-oriented questions about the FAFSA or aid.
So we do have a few more minutes for additional questions should you have them.
Michael wanted to also know, can he find out what percentage of need a college offers?
You know what? That's really hard to say, only because there are so many variables that each college has, as well as each student. So while you may have a number of students fitting certain categories, each student is handled individually. So the percentage of need that a student would get individually really is a tough question to answer. They're going to look at both, because they're looking at your academic information from the admission office to determine, the admission office is determining your merit aid. And then once the financial aid office, get that information, we then look, okay, so based on the merit aid and where they fall in the matrix, and then we look at the FAFSA information. We also look at, okay, is there additional need information that a specific student has that maybe another student doesn't have? Or are they in a specific major that we know we have a scholarship we can offer them because they're in that major and another student isn't? So there's all those individual criteria. So each student is looked at very individually. certainly you can ask. You can see in general in some cases. A good thing to check out is looking to and I apologize, I forget what it's called, but all colleges are required to have a link to give you a best guess estimate of what you'd be paying. But please remember, even though you go and use that, for you specifically, individually, each college has their own matrix and will determine that based on all that information I said. Thank you, Bill. Yes, net price calculator. It escaped my brain. And thanks, Biz, for putting ours up there. We appreciate that. So we'll give you just a couple more minutes and to answer any additional questions you have, and then certainly check back. We'll be doing this presentation again tonight at 6 o'clock. We'll be having an intermediate presentation later, as well as helping you complete your FAFSA. So if you have not completed your FAFSA yet and are maybe I'd like to get some help with that, on November 2nd in the evening, we will be taking appointments and being able to help you virtually. We will be doing screen sharing if needed, but we'll help you. We'll talk you through how to complete the FAFSA. Well, at this time, I'm going to stop the recording. We're still going to be keeping the chat open for a little bit longer. And of course, if anybody